Hey!
Hey!
Podcast Doom Spoilercast!
Yeah, God.
Game of Thrones.
Episode 8, Viper in the Mountain.
The Viper in the Mountain.
The Mountain and the Viper.
What a great name for this episode.
Yes.
Before we get into the meat of that discussion.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah. Oh.
So let's talk about what's been going on in the Game of Thrones universe. Obviously, Tyrion is still fighting for his life at the beginning of this episode. Found his champion last episode, which was
Oberyn Martell.
Martell himself.
Prince of Dorne. The Red Viper.
And they waited to the very end of the episode to show this fight. Which,
it lived up to the billing.
It did.
I mean, it was a hell of a fight. It just didn't end the way we wanted it to.
No, it did not.
And it's one of those things, even when you read the books and you can read about a guy getting his head crushed, it's not the same as seeing it and hearing it.
This is true.
And
oh my God,
I am very, very disturbed right now. Yeah,
I still have the heebie-jeebies from that.
It was very squicky.
I've seen a lot of head explosions in movies in my day. Being a big fan of like the Toxic Avenger,
Scanners,
and they're all done, but for the most part, you can tell it's pretty fake.
Yeah, we don't see too many head implosions.
No,
that's
not
more.
Really.
That was more like an implosion.
It was like being popped like a zit.
Oh,
almost. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Still gives me the heebie-jeebies.
So Tyrion lost. He lost his bid for freedom. He's been sentenced to death.
Unfortunately, this was spoiled for me before it happened.
Yeah, by your dumb cousin and your dumb coworker.
But it was not spoiled
both
how
dumb.
It happened.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah. When the fight started, I looked over at Danny and went, it was a good run.
It was a good run.
And of course, you just figured, whatever, he'll get stabbed.
Yeah, something.
He'll get maybe decapitated.
Right.
Because that's a thing that happens on the show a lot.
Right. Didn't see that coming.
No, dog. This shit got real.
I figured he was just going to snap his neck at first. And then he put his fingers into his eyes, and I was like, "Oh God!" Like, jeez,
why?
Because it's George R.R. Martin. That's why.
Yeah. So this is the episode where we're going to spend the first 2 minutes just
talking about the ending.
Talk about the ending of the episode. Talk about somebody getting their head crushed. Oberyn Martell, man, he left a pretty big impression in the books, a really good one. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to give it to the actor, was it Pablo Pascal? Uh-huh. He really brought that character to life. I mean, he was cool in the books, but he was the goddamn, breakout star on TV. And now he's gone. Just like we lose Ned Stark after 9 episodes, we get to lose Oberyn Martell after 8.
After 8, yeah.
It's like, God damn it.
It does
quit taking him from us.
But his ability to make that character into what it was...
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll talk volumes about what we're going to see him in after this. So
yeah, the thing about Khal Drogo, we didn't get a full season with him. It's rough. It's rough to be a badass on this show. Really,
it is. It definitely is.
It's really rough to be like the most cool, awesome guy in the room.
Right.
Because if you are the most awesome guy in the room, things aren't going to go well for you because people get jelly.
So that happened.
Speaking of people being the most awesome people in the room and then shit not going their way, poor Jorah.
Yeah, poor Jorah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, B did not sit here and watch this episode with us.
No.
Jorah.
Oh my gosh.
She's been a Jorah fan.
She's been a Jorah Dany shipper since the beginning of the show. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's a pity we couldn't watch it with her because I guarantee you she would have still been crying. We were trying to watch the fight, and she would have just been sobbing uncontrollably and screaming.
So what happened was someone handed a sealed parchment from
the Hand of the King.
The Hand of the King
to Sir Barristan, who recognized the symbol immediately.
Right, and it turned out to be Jorah's pardon that he got way back when.
Which, interesting how that fell into that kid's hands and into Barristan's.
Right.
Because I thought he just left it behind at some point.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and Jorah he was a traitor. He was spying on her when he first met her. But, her force of personality and just, her character changed him. He was a convert.
Right.
But, I guess it was too little too late in her eyes. Or she didn't even want to hear that shit. He tried to explain. She wasn't having any of it. She immediately saw him as an enemy and a betrayer and kicked him out of the city. She said, "I don't ever want to see you again."
She didn't even want to. She didn't want his dead body,
in her city.
Her city. My thing is, it's Game of Thrones. So, is he? Did this really just happen, or is it some plot of some sort? Is Dany sending him back to the Ten Kingdoms to spy on them for her now? You know what I mean? And I don't know. I haven't read the books, but
that would be a very wise plan. But it also involves sending away your most trusted and longest lasting advisor.
Right.
But either way, she's losing him.
Right. That's very true.
It's either she has to save face by making him a mole, or she's going to let her emotions get the better of her and throw him out, basically. I'm just
saying. I wouldn't put it past if it came up later that it turned out that was a whole plot.
I don't know. You'd think though, like if he's revealed as being a former spy, and he knows that everybody else knows, wouldn't you want to keep him closer to keep an eye on him? I mean, I don't know. It feels like doing something this grandiose is just going to cause a person to get spiteful or bitter, and then. Like, you're just setting yourself up for... It's the whole hubris, pride before the fall thing. Right. She should have swallowed her pride there and been like, you fucked up. You're on double secret probation, buddy.
Well, she even said, she took his advice in the last episode. Yep. You know what I mean? Like,
before she knew. Right. And we know from history she does not take being lied to or being slighted very well. Right. And the fact that he was spying on her, and then I think she's indirectly blaming him for what happened to her baby, even though that was all on her. Right. But the fact that the guy, the line poisoner was there because of him. Right. But he did step in because he had, between the time he sent that letter and then realized that what was going on, he had a change of heart. Right. But. Good luck trying to explain that to a Targaryen.
Right, exactly. And so it's one of those...
He's lucky that she didn't feed him to the dragons.
Right. Now that he's gone, though, what's that going to mean for Dany? You know what I mean?
She's got...
She's got
Barristan and Missandei, and that's it.
Well, he's been like the voice of reason when it comes to, not slaughtering people recently. So now, with him out of the picture and her pissed off that he's gone, that he was a traitor... What's that going to mean for her rule? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good question, and we'll see. But I have a feeling it's probably not going to be great in the long run.
No, probably not. So that would be my guess, but
I think she's going to end up missing him. Unless she did send him away. Well, she's going to miss him no matter what happened.
Right. Unless she is using him as an agent.
So even then, having someone
she'll still miss him. Yeah,
having someone that experienced, that wise being right there at your side, who can offer a new perspective or a more seasoned perspective. Someone who's been in war many times. Right. Can help out.
Someone that knows what they're doing. Right. Like a Littlefinger, for example, who knows what he's doing almost all the time.
Yeah, and it seems like he knows what he's doing even when he really has no idea what's going on.
Right. Or what's going to happen.
Sansa pulled a bit of an okey doke on him this episode. He was saying, "Oh, she's my niece. She's a bastard, Elaine," and then she comes right out to the other lords of the Vale. It's like, "No, I'm Sansa Stark, and he has been lying to you to protect me." And then she has like this whole 90% truth, 10% lie story to them about what happened to Lysa and how she came to the Vale, and it won them over. And they shared that look after she was done, and they were like, the one lady who was actually hugging Sansa to comfort her. They shared that look, and you can see, like, Littlefinger's like, yes, my Padawan, yes, you learn well.
Soon you shall become even more powerful than I. Soon. It was such a great scene.
And once again, the actress who plays Sansa, she had a pretty big monologue. There was a beefy about 3-minute. And it barely cut off of her. Only to look at Littlefinger's face as he was looking on, trying not to look shocked, but also trying to smile at how awesome this was. He was just kind of trying to look like completely impassive. So, but in the end, her help succeeded in securing the veil for him.
Right.
To let him stay in his place of power and not be accused of Lysa's death.
Right.
Now everybody thinks it's a suicide because she was moody and jealous and just flew into a crazy rage.
Right. And so her son now, they've decided, or Baelish decided that he's going to send him off into the world.
Well, no, not into the world, just
into the Vale.
To the rest of the Vale. He's going to do kind of the world tour, the Vale tour. He's going to go to all the holdfasts and all the forts and all the people's homes. He's going to basically visit all the lords in their houses and basically be their guest. And
well, that's the plan.
Yeah.
"Quote unquote" plan. We'll see how long he lasts out there.
Oh, he'll be fine.
Yeah, like we know, because it's Littlefinger trying to secure his position.
Yeah, well, if we've figured out anything, Littlefinger loves pawns.
Right.
He does not like being the lone queen on the chessboard. He likes being behind a line of pawns.
Right.
So
and his ultimate goal, we pretty much know, is for the Iron Throne. So
yeah.
Any way he can figure out how to get there is...
Yeah, well, if he could meld a young, impressionable lord who has a great claim, and then he could, be the man behind the little lordling.
He can be the guy behind the guy.
Yeah. The guy behind the guy who's the real guy.
Right.
So I think that's his end game. He sees Robb and he's like, well, this is somebody that I could work with. This is some barely molded clay. So let's see what happens if I apply a little pressure and start carving. So that's going to be interesting. And Sansa and him had this little conversation. He asked why she helped him. And she's like, well, I don't... She's like, I didn't know what would happen. You would get beheaded, but I don't know what would happen to me. And he's like, I don't either. She's like, there you go.
There it is, yeah. It's like,
so he's like, yeah, trust the man you know, and that's not the strangers you don't. Right. She's like, meh.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so she's basically got this thing kind of going now, and she definitely had that little moment at the end where she came out in her all black garb with the feathers on the shoulders, basically looking like the boss. It was like she had it was like that badass coming down the stairs kind of moment, not like the prom girl coming down the stairs slow motion. No, this was the badass who walks in the room and swaggers and strikes a pose and then walks down the stairs with a fucking boss. Yeah, that's what she did.
It's that air of respect, not that air of beauty scene. You know what I mean?
She's commanding not attention because she's a woman. She's commanding attention because she's a leader, because she's a person of power, and it's something that we would never have seen Sansa from season 1.
Oh yeah, no, not at all.
So,
and I think that they did a really good job with that. I think they did a really good job even with him talking to, I can't remember his name, Liza's son.
Oh, Robin.
Robin, being you can't fear death. You have to live life.
Yeah, you could die at any moment, so you have to live your life the way you want to. That's what it means to be Lord of the Vale, is to live your life the best you can.
Right.
And not to worry about when you're going to die. And that was actually really good advice.
It was.
It's the kind of advice that he probably should have been getting from a very young age.
Right.
That he wasn't because his mother was just so protective and so coddled him so much.
Right. And that's in part because she killed his, father. So.
Yeah, well, yeah.
He's like, you must stay here. You must stay safe.
Yeah, she didn't want... She knew that there were more people like her out there, so she's like, well, we can't have that. So.
Exactly. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting little turn. I'm not sure if we're going to see them again this season. I mean, that felt kind of like a good way, the end of their story for this season was that last scene there. But who knows? They might peek in again. But that did feel like kind of closing the chapter on...
That's where this is going to stop.
On those two for now. And they'll pick it up back again in season 5.
Well, we also saw the Hound and Arya.
Yeah, arrived at the Vale.
They got to the Vale.
They got to the Bloody Gate, and of course they're like, "Who are you?" And Hound's like, "I'm the Bloody Hound."
With my travel companion.
Sandor Clegane, with my travel companion. Arya Stark, the niece of Lady Lysa. And then, the guy looks all sad and shit. He's like, Lady Lysa died 3 days ago.
My condolences.
Yeah.
Like, what for? She died 3 days ago.
And then Arya just starts laughing uncontrollably. It's the funniest thing I've seen all season.
I thought it was hilarious, too. I'm like, they had this giant, long journey just to get here, and now she's dead.
Yeah. And, before that, they're walking up and they're talking about Joffrey's death, because they just found out, I guess. News doesn't travel that fast. And Arya's like, I wish I'd been there to see his face. It's like she's like, "Would you have protected him?" He's like, "I wasn't his bloody wine taster."
Then they're talking about how he said that wine or poison is a woman's
weapon. Well, real men kill with steel. And she's like, "Pfeh." She's like, I'll kill him with a chicken bone if I that's all I had. And then the Hound's like, I'd pay good money to see that. I hope those two will stay together like the whole. This is deviating far abreast of the book right now. Right. Like this is right now where coming to the Vale is something that never happened in the book. I'm very curious to see what their plans are, because I know what happened in the book, and now I get to see maybe a new kind of a new journey. Like fork in the road, they took the other fork. So now I get to see what's going to happen there, and it's interesting. It's pretty curious. Yeah,
because it makes me wonder, because now he's announced that he has Arya Stark.
Yeah.
Those guards really aren't going to let him just leave with her.
No, but...
You would think, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but, and that's it. Maybe we'll finally get to see the first ever Stark reunion on the show.
Right.
Sansa and Arya, the two that couldn't stand each other.
Yeah, the two that you're just like, I don't care if they ever see each other again.
I'm really curious. I'd love to see current Sansa and current Arya meet and be like...
Right.
Kind of have that exchange, that look, and be like... Ooh, you've changed.
Yeah.
Sansa's become, devious and a survivor, and Arya's become a murderer. So
we got no Brienne in this episode. I was surprised.
They're headed to the Vale too, so this shit's all coming together.
Right.
That was something that we forgot to mention at last, Spoilercast, because we were talking about so much other stuff, and we had B. So we did leave out the part where they met Hot Pie at the inn. And then he came out afterwards and gave him the little wolf bread and told him that he'd been with Arya and where she was going and who she was with. Like, he gave him all the information.
Right.
This fucking little baker out in the middle of nowhere knows more than, Tywin Lannister on the situation.
Right.
Fucking incredible. And it was actually Pod's idea to go to the Eyrie because that's where her aunt is, and then Brienne listened to him.
Right.
So we didn't see any of that, but that's what happened. We'll catch up. It was really short, but it was nice.
I did see a comparison on the wolf bread that he made.
Yeah.
And the first one that he made that he left with Arya, the one that they gave him. He's like, he's really stepped up his game.
Yeah.
His wolf bread game.
Yeah. And one of these days, he has his own YouTube channel. Epic wolf bread time.
Apparently, you can never, forget about the gravy. Apparently.
No, man, the gravy's the most important part. you don't sleep on the gravy, bitches. I wish I had the little, the bird claw that they use on Epic Mealtime. I don't want to infringe too much on their shit. We got to spend some time in the north in Molestown, which just got attacked by the wildlings. Everybody's dead except for Gilly. Ygritte spared Gilly. Although it was a pretty fucking horrifying sight. Ygritte goes in there, she sees Gilly with the baby, and then she does the whole shh kind of thing while they're massacring everybody else. And then you see Ygritte walk away, and the floorboards above her head are dripping blood between the cracks because people are being murdered above them. It's like, oh my fucking god.
So, yeah.
And then cut to Castle Black, and there's Sam crying, drinking his sorrows because he's like, I might as well cut their throats myself. And then, of all people,
I should have never done that.
Yeah, of all people, Dolores Ed, the most glum, negative motherfucker around, actually gives Sam words of encouragement, saying she survived that bastard Crasser, she survived the March to the Wall, she survived the White Walker.
Right.
It's like she probably got it. She might have survived this.
And you just see that glimmer of hope. And Sam just come back alive.
She might have.
You're right. That's right. Maybe she might have survived.
Meanwhile, over here, Gren, Pip, and John are having the real conversation that we are fucked.
We are fucked. Like, 105 of us is like, nope, these 2 died. 102 of us.
Yeah.
Or these 3 people died. 102 of us.
Yeah.
It's like, shit.
3 of them were there getting their dick sucked, and then they got stabbed.
It's like, so 102 of us are going to take on 100,000.
10,000, yeah.
Or 10,000.
Well, whatever. A large number.
Right. That's going to, from the preview we've seen for next episode...
It's coming.
It's coming, and it looks like it's going to be epic.
It's going to be epic as shit.
I know we're going to have to watch it when it's dark outside so we can actually see what's going on.
Yeah, I know. The problem with having these really nice big picture windows in your living room is when you have your TV right next to the windows, there's a bit of a glare, and this show likes to use the low lighting. You know, you could make out about most of what was happening in the brothel, but it wasn't that important. People were just being stupid and shitty and drunk.
Right.
And then they all got stabbed. And probably eaten, because they were cannibals with them.
Yeah, probably.
Although, I don't know if their fate was worse than the Ironborn at Moat Cailin. Ramsay Snow and Reek came up to Moat Cailin, and after some fighting, I think really just some play fighting, stage fighting, to missell the lie, they sent in, quote, Theon Greyjoy to negotiate. And the first guy wasn't going to accept. He spat blood in Theon's face, and Theon was freaking out. He was about to go reek all over him.
Right.
And then the guy who's like second in command fucking puts an axe in his head. And he's like, if we surrender, we live? And then I looked at you right when he said that. I'm like, they're not going to live.
They're not going to live.
Sure enough, next scene's the same dude, and he's been flayed from the fucking neck down.
Yeah.
His eyes are gouged out. He has, like, all of his skin is completely taken off. And I'm like, oh boy. Good old Bolton's flaying people.
Well, and then now he also is no longer known as Snow.
No, he's not a bastard anymore. He's Bruce Bolton has made a decree as Warden of the North that he's now Ramsay Bolton. He's a full-blooded son, with all the titles and all the honoraries that come with it, which also means that he will be next in line to be Warden of the North.
Right.
If Bruce passes away. So, shit.
Yeah, and it looks like they're marching to Winterfell right now.
Yeah, after they got done taking back Moat Cailin, they looked like they were headed to Winterfell, and I don't know what their plans are there, but that was definitely a familiar silhouette.
Right.
And that also feels like that's kind of the end of that story for this season.
For this season, yeah.
I mean, it has that feel like that's going to be something where we don't need to see what happens next until next season.
Right.
Because it really feels like Tyrion being sentenced to death and the fight at the wall are like the 2 biggest stories.
Right, those are the things that are left.
You know, Daenerys, it feels like there might be more there, but I don't really know.
They got to a good stopping point with on the other side of the sea.
Yeah, and they even managed to weave in a new love plot with Grey Worm and Missandei. We got to see Missandei bathing. We got to see Grey Worm bathing. Both good things. Although the goddamn eunuchs get more action than I am these days.
Well, even Daenerys is like, have you ever wondered how much they actually cut?
Yes. They removed the pillar and the stones.
Yeah.
Like, using it.
And she's like, I have wondered. So, it's one of those things, how much of a eunuch is Grey Worm really?
Yeah, traditionally, eunuch, you still have the pillar.
Yeah, traditionally, if you're a eunuch, you still have the pillar, I guess. But
R2 agreed.
R2 agrees.
He confirms that. Anyway, so they had a little scene in the throne room between just Grey Worm and Missandei, where they're kind of tiptoeing around, you know, basically both of them trying to tell the other one that, yeah, I'm kind of interested in you.
Right.
So, it's interesting, because, you know, and she said, I'm sorry that happened to you as a boy, you know, it shouldn't, you know, it's a terrible thing. And he said, well, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have become unsullied, I wouldn't have been freed by Daenerys, I wouldn't have never met you. So he sees it as a blessing.
Right.
Or at least he sees it, you know, as there's a positive outcome to what happened. So he doesn't see it as being like this awful thing that ruined his life.
Right.
Well, so, I mean, hey, positive mindset, man.
Right.
Good vibes. Send the positive vibes.
You know, and it's the same. She's like, I'm glad you saw me. And he's like, I'm glad I did too.
Yeah, no shit. I'm glad. It's like, she's like, I'm glad you saw me. And then every guy in the world's like, yeah, us
we're glad
too.
you did too, yeah. So there's something going on there.
Yeah. And again, that's something that's deviating from the books. The two of them never developed a relationship in the book. So I'm curious. I like that. I like this that there's something there. Stuff. Well, I like that these characters that are around Daenerys are getting more to do.
Right.
Obviously with Jorah leaving, we need to have the other characters that are around her become more fleshed out, so they're not just kind of like set dressing.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Because in the books, that's kind of what it is. Missandei is just kind of like a translator, and Grey Worm is really never around. He leads the Unsullied, but he's not really around her that much as far as being in the throne room or anything else.
Right. Well, in the books, you know they're there. But, it's not like... They're, like you said, they did just become set pieces. In the book, you don't have to talk about them. You know they're there, but they're not physically... You can't physically see them there. You know what I mean? I think that's why they've decided to expand on them.
Yeah, and in the books, Missandei has a bit of a role, because Daenerys doesn't speak the language of the slavers. Right. Obviously, they changed that for this show. They let her speak the language of the slavers so she could deliver those badass threats and then have her dragons burn them alive.
Right.
Well, her sunglasses fall from the sky and she says, deal with it. But in the books, that's all, Missandei translating back and forth.
Right.
Like that first time when Missandei was translating for that first guy, and he was insulting Missandei didn't translate fully.
Right.
That was actually in the books, that whole little bit.
That was actually in the books.
Yeah, so it was, they kept part of it, but they definitely lessened her role in that capacity, so I'm glad they're doing something else to kind of make her more of a, central character to the story.
Right.
Or at least to have something going on that's not just, I follow Daenerys around wherever she goes.
Right. Yeah, more than just, I'm just a person standing in the background.
Uh-huh. Also, there's one amazing scene with Tyrion and Jaime in his Tyrion cell waiting for the battle to happen. The battle. Oh. God. Anyway, and it was amazing. It was a really interesting conversation. Again, something that wasn't in the books. Talking about this cousin they had of theirs that was simple, who would spend all his time out in the garden smashing beetles with a rocket and making noises. And Tyrion, told this long story about how he was fascinated by the cousin. He wanted to know what motivated him, why he was doing it, and that he never was able to figure out. And the cousin eventually died, and that he never figured out why the cousin was doing what he was doing. And it's I think it says a lot about Tyrion, in that his last kind of thoughts before he might go to face his death was about something he couldn't figure out, like a puzzle he couldn't solve, and that really speaks volumes about how he's wired. That that's where his mind went. Right, was this unsolved kind of mystery in their family.
It was puzzle. He started to think, he's like, I dreamt of being on a beach filled with just these beetles' bodies. He said he started feeling bad for the beetles.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was supposed to be like a simile towards I'm dying, but everyone else is fucked because I'm dying. You know what I mean? I can figure it out, so where is that going to leave everything? You know what I mean?
Right. I think, because we saw at the same time there was a beetle in the cell that he kind of just picked up, and he was just holding it, and then he put it back down alive, and it scurried off. I think that was, kind of Tyrion... juxtaposing himself versus kind of the rest of his sister or the rest of the world, that he's not interested in murdering or killing people to get what he wants. He's interested in just figuring out how people work. And that he doesn't need to kill a beetle, or anybody to get what he wants. Right. I think that was more just, showing who he is outside the rest of the world, that even his brother didn't really understand. That he's just so different from the people around him, the people who are running the kingdom. Right. That he doesn't really have a place in that world at all, because.
And he's accepted that, you think?
I think so. I think
that's what that was about.
I think he accepted it a long time ago, but I think this was him making peace with it. Finally, that he realizes that he couldn't figure out their cousin, and he can't figure out his the other people,
father.
The people around him.
He can't figure out Cersei. He can't figure out Littlefinger. And I think it was him accepting that.
Yeah, Varys. That he wants to figure out understand people, and he
just can't.
He couldn't even understand a simpleton, someone that said like 3-4 words. It was like you're trying to figure out Hodor and his motivations, and not being able to ever figure it out.
Right.
And he was just coming to terms finally, like this has been my life goal, and I'm not going to ever succeed at it.
Right.
And I have to just accept that now. Because when he was done talking about it, he's like, when is it going to happen? And Jamie's just like, soon. So it felt like he was kind of not ready to die, but he was finally kind of come to terms with what his place was, and what he was capable of and what he wasn't. And
that's really kind of sad because his character had always been, up until this point, his character had always been about, I don't care if you think I'm a dwarf, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to, I saved the city, and all that. Now he's just kind of like accepted that, he's had it pretty harsh. Figure out everything. And it's really sad, especially since with the ending now, we know that he's being sentenced to death. Yeah. And hopefully we'll be seeing how that plays out this season, because if they wait until next season, I'm going to be so mad.
They won't. If they go
how it was in the books.
Yeah, if they stay close to the book, it'll be resolved before the end of the season. But who knows? You can't predict anything with the show because they've shown over and over they're not afraid to deviate. Right. If it makes sense to their stories. So yeah, it's interesting that Tyrion might be the most honest, and even more than Ned Stark. He might be the most honest character we've had. Right. And we've seen honesty gets you in trouble, and this kind of self-realization, honesty that he's kind of bandying about has actually become his downfall. And it'll be interesting to see, now that he's literally on death row, how his attitude changes, or how he looks at the world changes. If he's going to start begging for his life, is he going to, because he was very prideful, up until this point. Right. So,
well, he was a Lannister,
his pride got him into where he is now. So we'll see if that pride holds. Right. So that's about it for this episode.
I don't think there's anything else. I think we've covered everything.
Next week is going to be pretty much all about what's happening at the wall. Looks like from the preview. There was nothing else in the preview.
Yeah, there's nothing else in the preview. All of the wall.
So I think it's going to be like Episode 9 was in Season 2 when it was all Battle of Blackwater. It didn't leave King's Landing. Right. I think that's what we're going to have here.
This one too.
This one's going to stay right there. So really looking forward to that. The show, I think this season is already right up there as probably the best the show's had.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I'm excited to see how they're gonna, how and if they'll stick the landing. Because there's a lot of balls in the air right now, man. Right. They're still in danger.
And they're gonna have to leave it off on some. They're gonna have to leave it off on some cliffhanger at the end of episode 10. Yeah. Just to make you be like, oh, I gotta wait all this time for the next season.
Well, here goes another 9 months waiting.
Aww, son of a bitch.
Yes.
Well, we haven't seen Stannis in a while, so, I mean, we could be seeing him, hopefully, maybe in the last episode.
And Melisandre's weird titties.
But yeah, so I think that's going to pretty much wrap it up for this episode.
Yes, weird titties.
Weird titties. We're going to leave it on weird titties note. So on behalf of the Podcast of Doom, once again, I'm Friar Dan.
And I'm that guy Todd.
We'll see you next time, guys.
You listen or you die.